there in his toter and ripped off a mirror and like put a big gash down somebody else's toter because he was all busted. He had run me. Oh yeah. Old Jack Emmons and Nick were sitting there, and Derek Dennis were sitting there just watching him, and they're like, "Stop!"
He went back.
No, Nick was in the car, or Nick was in the toter.
That would make sense.
People drives in 96.
Couldn't change around.
Nick roll off. He owned Jack's car. And Jack
Brendan. Call the meeting to order. It's Montcalm County Board of Commissioners, regular meeting for Monday, April 28th. We'll begin with a pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Vice Chairman Peterson, please.
Yeah, today we have Pastor Samuel Costin from Pine Grove Church here in Stanton to lead us in prayer, please.
Almighty Father, thank you for today. Thank you for the sunshine. Praise you, Lord, for your sovereignty, for new life that is showing itself outside through the spring season. I pray for your blessing on this meeting this afternoon, for your blessing on each life that is here, Father. I pray that your will would continue to be done. And again, that you would bless each one that serves on this board. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Alexander.
Here.
Johnston.
Here.
Peterson.
Yes, ma'am.
Painter. Mahar.
Here.
Carr.
Yes.
Murray.
Here. And we have a quorum. On tonight's agenda, I don't have any changes. Does anyone else?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Johnston.
I'd move to approve our agenda as presented.
Support. It's been moved and supported to approve the agenda as presented. Discussion. If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Everyone have a copy of the meeting minutes, the last meeting, April 14th, 2025.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Johnston.
I'd move to approve our minutes from our April 14th, 2025 regular board meeting as presented.
Support. It's been moved and supported to approve the last set of board minutes from our regular meeting, April 14th, 2025 as presented. Discussion. If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public comments.
Good afternoon. For those who don't know me, my name is Tom George. Obviously, I work for the Sheriff's Office. For full disclosure, I'm on my own time. I am not on the clock. The views I'm about to express are mine. They do not necessarily reflect the views of the Sheriff or the Sheriff's Office. Please listen up because I'm going to go quick and I'm going to try not to run out of breath because I've got quite a bit to say. I'd like to address the board for the pitiful display last week or 2 weeks ago when the Sheriff came to discuss amending the contracts. Conversation quickly turned to the staffing issues that the Sheriff's Office is experiencing. As co-employers, which you all are, the board position could have been, how can we help? But instead, the conversation quickly turned into an attack on the sheriff with the tone being, what are you doing wrong? Tell us what we want to hear. Did any of you think that was going to be productive in an open meeting to have that discussion? It is true we have many spots to fill, and this has caused many in the board to determine that there must be issues at the Sheriff's Office, speculating and assuming that there must be some type of cultural issue. The sheriff did share some of the reasons that individuals have left, yet the board continues to drive this narrative. Deputies are leaving us. It's not untrue. They're leaving for a number of issues that we cannot compete with. Some board members cited pay when they're discussing our vacancies. Yes, we were given a substantial pay raise a while back. And as for me and the other deputies, we are very grateful for that. That was not a magic pill that was going to solve our vacancy issues. And if you think it is, it was very short-sighted. The pay raise we received has brought us up to average among other agencies with similar size populations as we have. Average doesn't attract individuals to us. With the vast number of job openings in Michigan, with departments offering more, how are we to stand out? I know some of you want to bring up the fact that a deputy has left us for a smaller agency within the county. The narrative seems to be that why would that deputy leave for that smaller agency? I think for one thing that's disrespectful to that smaller agency is the inference that that agency is somehow lesser than the Sheriff's Office. Do any of you know what that now officer's compensation, including pay, is for the village where he's working at? There were several issues that the deputy took into consideration and made it a determination was best for he and his family to leave. The simple narrative that the Sheriff's Office has a cultural problem forcing that deputy to leave is, again, based on speculations and assumptions. The most significant fact facing the sheriff's office in regard to our staffing level seems to have been forgotten by everyone. Most employers all over are in a constant hiring process because employees come and go. That's the norm for today. If the sheriff's office road patrol was fully staffed, we would be in a constant hiring position as well, because again, that seems to be the new norm. The fact everyone forgets is that we started with a 14 deputy deficit when the millage was passed that we had to hire. No one started behind the 8 ball as far as we have. And where there was no way that we could forecast the changes in society that made it more difficult to hire. And these hurdles we've experienced have been something we've never experienced in the past. One thing this board did accomplish 2 weeks ago is you've now made it harder for the sheriff's office to attract qualified candidates to fill our vacant positions. Do you think that individuals who want to apply to us won't do an internet search? And what's going to pop up is articles about a cultural problem. They won't investigate the truthfulness of that accusation. They'll merely move on to another agency that doesn't have this baseless accusation out there. If you think your words and actions don't have consequences, they absolutely do. Recently, even our jail administrator had to have a discussion with a prospective employee as that employee asked about the alleged cultural issues we have. Your words have consequences, and now you made it harder for us to attract qualified candidates. And also on that note, if the sheriff's office has this big cultural problem, why isn't it reflected in the jail staff? Lastly, I want to talk about the topic of you folks being co-employers. You are my co-employer, and I acknowledge that. But I recommend you go home and do some self-reflecting on the topic of being a co-employer. Are you the type of employer you would want to work for? I've been called names by members of this board. They never reached out to me on the topic, but felt need being, I guess, less than educated on all the issues, felt the need to publicly call me names. Do you want to work for someone who's going to publicly call you names without knowing all the issues of the matter before doing so? I've watched many a recording where employees are belittled and berated and gaslighted by members of the board. Do you want to work for someone who berates you in a public meeting? When you visit the county, various county offices and departments, do you stop and ask anyone their name, what their position is, how their day is going, what they're doing? A lot of the employees within the county feel that to the Board of Commissioners, they're just a number. Do you want to work for someone who feels you are just a number? And on that last thing, if you think it's just foolish that we even bring that up, you've got a whole new generation of employers or employees coming up. They think differently and they aren't changing. You're going to have to learn how to work with them. I'm going to stop badgering you now. I'm going to get ready to leave because like I said, I'm here on my own time and I want to go home. If you wish to discuss this further, Monday through Friday, I'm at the office during the day. Promise I won't close the door, but if your ego is such you need a vast audience, I do not live stream from my desk. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? If not, our 405 agenda item, we have Representative Pat Outman with us to give us a legislative update. Thank you.
Mind if I?
No, go ahead.
You think he wears an outfit everywhere? He's not on his own time. Thanks, man.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, do you mind passing
Sure.
this along?
Thank you.
All right, ready for me?
Yep, whenever you're ready.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and fellow commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this afternoon. Just like last year, I just want to give a brief legislative update, especially as it relates to some of the more pertinent items, related to county governments. So it's been a relatively slow start to the legislature this legislative term. I think we've got a whopping 2 bills signed into law so far. Hit a little bit of a gridlock, and I knew there would be some growing pains. It's our first legislative session back in divided government. As you know, the Michigan House Republicans regained majority in the House of Representatives, and so there'll be a little bit of a few kinks along the way, but I'm anticipating here shortly that the floodgates will open and we'll start seeing a flurry of legislation. it's been good that due to the fact that we've been able to prevent a lot of the ramming through of some of the partisan radical legislation, but it's also had the opposite effect of holding up some good policy as well. So working through that process, like I said, I figured there'd be some kinks along the way, but I'm anticipating that the floodgates will open soon and we'll really get back to business. But with that, there's been a number of things that we've been working on that will benefit Montcalm County. So I want to be sure to highlight those items as well. I'll start with the House road funding plan that passed out of our chamber with some strong bipartisan support about a month ago. It's now over in the Senate awaiting action. I did testify in the Senate Appropriations Committee a couple of weeks ago on the bills, but still awaiting further action on that. Before I dive into the bills, though, I want to back up and just give a little bit of background, just to give you guys a sense of why this is my number one priority and really why we're kind of in the situation that we're in currently. So if you recall back in 2015, the legislature passed a significant road funding package. It was a good first step. I like to say it slowed the decay, but it didn't solve the issue long term. Since that time, road projects have increased about 30%. That's made our dollars go even shorter. But also the gas tax revenue is continuing to decline due to a couple of reasons. One, fuel efficiency, and the other, there's more hybrid and electric vehicles on the road. So not necessarily bad problems, but when our roads are being funded by primarily two sources, one being the annual registration birthday tax that we as Michigan drivers all pay, the other being the gas tax revenue. So when one of those two major buckets starts to decline, it really causes a great deal of issues moving forward. So trying to address those issues head on. Those problems combined with not putting enough money into our roads for multiple decades has led to a funding cliff that we are quickly approaching at the end of the decade. Reports are indicated that we're about $2 to $4 billion underfunded. And if we stay on the same spending trajectory, less than 50% of our major roads, our major trunk lines, our major highways, interstates, expressways, et cetera, less than 50% of those roads will be in good and fair condition. And our local roads will fare much worse than that even. So we really are approaching that funding cliff pretty directly in a short amount of time. So to address those issues, we came up with a long-term plan. Before you is our House road funding plan. It's a 9-bill package, House Bill 4180 through 4187, and also a last-minute bill that I tacked down on the end that I'll discuss as well. That's House Bill 4230. It's a really simple plan. It provides an additional $3.1 billion increase to our Michigan roads, and this is using existing revenue. There's no tax hikes within this plan, and I'll talk about why that's important to me as well. The bulk of this plan is my bill 4187, and what that does is that redirects the first $2.2 billion of corporate income tax revenue straight to the Michigan Transportation Fund. The other major component of our plan is the sales tax on fuel purchases. You might know, maybe you don't, Michigan is one of only 5 states that mandates a sales tax on fuel purchases, yet none of that money goes to the road system. And I think it's common sense, at least I feel it's common sense, that every single penny that you pay at the pump should go to the road system. And so that's a major component of this plan. We're redirecting about $1 billion of sales tax revenue straight to the transportation fund. That's not the case right now. Right now it goes, most sales tax revenue goes to 3 primary places. All good. 75% of it roughly goes to the school aid fund. 10 to 15% of it goes to local revenue sharing for cities, township, villages. And then the remainder goes to something called the Michigan Comprehensive Transportation Fund. And that's helps fund our airports, bike trails, non-traditional transportation infrastructure, essentially. So it all goes it all goes to good places, but like I said, I think it's common sense that every penny you pay at the pump should go to our road system, and that's what we're mandating here in this plan. Other components of the plan is we're eliminating our annual sewer payments and our mega tax credit obligations. That probably doesn't mean anything to you, but it's I like to think of it as our legislative corporate slush fund. It's our tool that we use to basically incentivize / bribe companies to come into Michigan and establish operations or retain their operations in Michigan. So that's essentially what our SOAR fund is all about. The big emphasis of this plan is our local road system, our local roads, driveway to highway. That's kind of the mentality of this plan. You might recall Governor Whitmer during her first term in office wasn't able to accomplish anything legislatively to increase road funding, so she bonded about $3.5 billion. I think that was truly an awful decision, but we could kind of go down a rabbit hole there of the existing debt obligations that we're continuing to face. That's continuing to be peeled off of the top of the PA 51 formula. It was not a good long-term fix. Let me just put it that way. That being said, all of that bonding money went to our major trunk line roads. None of it went to our local road infrastructure. So once again, our local roads have been neglected that much further. And they have been for the last number of decades, but this just accelerated that even more. The vast majority of this plan, in fact, $2.5 billion of this plan goes into our local road system, which MDOT was not happy with me when I established that. But I think it's time that we start addressing our local road system. Out of that $2.2 billion that I mentioned, I'm redirecting from the corporate income tax revenue from the general fund right to the Michigan Transportation Fund. I'm earmarking $375 million of that specifically for county non-primary roads, basically our rural township roads that are continuing to be neglected. To even sweeten that deal even more, when using that $375 million, there will be no local match requirement. And you guys know just as much as I do, a lot of our local townships cannot afford that 50% match to our local road commission. They just don't have the tax base for it. They might even have a millage dedicated for road projects, but they just don't have the tax benefit, the tax base to meet that match requirement. We're eliminating that within this neighborhood roads fund. When using that $375 million, and it's broken down by number of urban lane miles. There's a whole formula distribution that we put in place. But when you're using that $375 million, that neighborhood roads fund pot of money, there will be no match requirement for our local townships. So that's going to eliminate a major financial hurdle that a lot of our rural townships are facing right now. So let's talk about why existing revenue. Why am I so committed to that? Why am I so opposed to any sort of tax increase? The basic reason, the biggest reason rather, is because I'm sick of the amount of mismanagement in terms of our state spending. If you go back to 2018, Governor Whitmer's first year in office, and I use this as just a benchmark, not solely placing the blame on Governor Whitmer, but I think it's a good indication of where we're at and where we were in the past. In 2018, in Governor Whitmer's first term in office, we were dealing with a $58 billion budget. Fast forward to the 2026 budget that we're proposing right now, we're $86 billion. That's nearly a $30 billion increase in a relatively short amount of time. But what have we gotten from that? Have the people of Michigan got a 50% increase in the benefit they get from the government? I think most people would argue no. Has the transportation fund increased by 50% over that time? It has not. It has not seen any sort of significant increase in the transportation fund. how can I go back to my constituents and ask them to fork over more money to adequately fund something that should already be adequately funded? I just can't do that. And so that's why I'm so committed to enacting this plan with existing revenue. So let's talk about the status of the bills and where they're at in the process right now. I passed the bills out of my House Transportation Committee on March 18th. The following day, on the 19th, we passed them out of the full House of Representatives. They passed pretty bipartisanly. I was able to build a pretty strong coalition with some of my more moderate House Democrats. So we were able to get it over the finish line with a pretty comfy margin. Like I mentioned in my previous testimony, I was given the opportunity to present those bills in the Senate Appropriations Committee, which my father happens to be a member of. And so I formally presented it to that body, to that Senate Appropriations Committee, and had a very, very robust discussion on that. I don't feel like it was the most genuine committee hearing. I felt like it was, and I felt like I had kind of backed them into a corner where they didn't really have a plan in place and they kind of felt cornered. And so they figured they'd bring me in, try to rough me up a little bit, poke a bunch of holes in my plan. I thought we did very well. And I would encourage you all to go back and review the committee testimony. I thought we did a very good job articulating our plan, laying it out, explaining how it's feasible and how we're going to get it done. And hopefully we left a good impression. I'll just say Governor Whitmer wants to get a deal done on roads. She's got 2 years left to fulfill that initial campaign promise of fixing the darn roads. And I want to help her achieve that promise. I want to partner with her. The Senate Democrats, not so much, but I'm working on there. I'm trying to build a compelling case. I'm hoping Governor Whitmer has enough clout left to drag them along with her. But there's a deal to be made, and I'm hopeful that we're going to get it done. So again, we're still awaiting further action in the Michigan Senate as we speak. Let's talk real quickly about the local impact, because this will have a significant impact on our local body. Montcalm County, if this plan goes in place, will stand to receive $23 million. That's a 98% increase. Greenville stands to gain $3.4 million, 153% increase. Stanton, 168 increase. Lakeview, 154% increase. So, like I said, the vast majority of this plan goes to our local road system. It's not going to be hogged up by Southeast Michigan, Detroit, Metro Detroit area. It's not going just to our major trunk line roads, our major expressways. This is from driveway to highway, our local road system that we use every single day. It'll benefit rural Michigan tremendously. So that's our House road funding plan. The next item I want to highlight is the Public Safety Trust Fund. This is a $150 million investment statewide to support law enforcement, improve officer training, and expand community policing. Now, we all know the struggles that we face with law enforcement, particularly in rural Michigan. And it sounds like you guys were maybe debating that even further, or is at least receiving some comment on that prior to me joining your meeting. We can't seem to keep recruits. We can't seem to keep our officers within our department. Even when we do get a new recruit, it seems like the new department poaches them away just as quickly as we get them. I don't know what's going on, but I know we're not alone in this. I know we've been struggling to staff our law enforcement agencies across the state, particularly in the rural parts of the state. So we're making that a priority. We're making that an investment. And Montcalm County, once again, stands to gain a pretty significant increase. With this Public Safety Trust Fund, Montcalm County stands to gain about $225,000. Ionia County, which I represent, which you guys don't care as much about, $240,000, and Greenville, $66,000. Reynolds Township, $31,000. And I bring Reynolds Township up because, as you guys probably know, they had to terminate their policing contract with our sheriff's department. So, for the first time in many decades, I don't know how long it's been, they no longer have police presence in Reynolds Township. And that doesn't sit well with me. And just in general, the lack of law enforcement presence in Montcalm County does not sit well with me. I drive the roads, I hardly see deputies anymore. I just don't see that presence anymore that really keeps.
We had about 10 minutes allotted for you. We've got a huge agenda today. We've got about double that. Or if you got a lot more to do, or do you want to come back another time? Maybe we've got our auditor here to give us our audit request or our audit report tonight, our equalization director. I don't know how
My
much
apologies,
more
Chairman. I didn't realize we had such a time constraint here.
Yeah.
Let me wrap up here.
Okay.
I hit on the major, my major talking points. I really wanted to discuss the road plan with you guys. Let me just wrap up with the state budget, I guess. We're working through that process right now. We're still in kind of the infancy stages. Our constitutional deadline is September 30, October 1st. So we have a little bit of cushion in between now and then. Obviously, we'd like to get that done much sooner. We'd like to get it done by end of June. That way schools can kind of plan their budgets and plan around what sort of appropriation they're going to receive from the state of Michigan. But we're working through that process right now. I guess I'll leave it right there. Any quick questions before?
Yeah, I hate to rush you or cut you off on that. We just had a big agenda tonight. We probably didn't allow you enough, didn't schedule enough time for you. So, but appreciate the update.
Thank you, guys.
Chairman, can I ask? just
Yeah,
a question?
go ahead.
So there's a lot of money that's going to be earmarked or redirected, it sounds like. Who do you think, when you take that sort of money from obviously places that it was being used and now it's going to be directed towards roads, which I think is a good thing. But who's going to be losing, who's going to be losing their funding, I guess? Like who's going to be the losers with this?
Yeah, so the vast majority of the money I'm redirecting goes into the general fund of the budget. It's our pot of discretionary funding. It stands about $15 billion. The biggest hurdle in my plan was the sales tax component. So I didn't realize how many tentacles the sales tax has, but it goes to a lot of different areas of the state budget. So I had to put in place a standalone bill that backfills hundreds of $millions to the school aid fund to make sure they're not impacted. I had to do a last minute floor substitute to make sure that local governments weren't having their revenue sharing impacted. But the vast majority of it is just discretionary money that just stays in our general fund. The biggest impact is the elimination of the SOAR fund and some of those corporate incentives. Those are kind of the biggest losers out of this plan. But aside from that, it's really just redirecting existing revenue and meeting a big priority.
Thank you.
So revenue sharing won't be affected at all.
They will not. No, will not.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you, Representative Altman.
Thank you.
Up next, our equalization director and assistant deputy Deb Ballard and Nicole Flowers are here with the 2025 county equalization report. Welcome.
All right, so as you can see, we left you guys some nice little books on your desk for our 2025 Montcalm County Equalization Report. The front page is actually a picture of the Northern Lights from last fall.
Yep.
So we start off with our table of contents. And then on page 1 is the resolution to adopt the 2025 report as submitted with equalized values for real property as $3,995,850,855 or 45, sorry, with a personal property value of $342,712,635 for a total equalized value of $4,338,568,480. On page 2, it breaks down the values by class, which are agricultural, commercial, industrial, residential, and developmental. On page 3, it has, of course, our Board of Commissioners, their districts with their names, the Equalization Department's employees, and then a list of the local assessors by their municipalities. Page 4 is the history of the Consumer's Price Index since 1995. Our Consumer's Price Index multiplier this year was 1.031 or 3.1%. We did run our numbers this year, and it does appear that most of our units and the county itself will have a millage rollback. On page 5, this is the percent increase in the equalized and taxable values by township. If you'll notice at the graph on the bottom, both Bushnell and Evergreen had quite a large increase in percentage. This was due to the solar fields coming into those two townships. On page 6 is a graph, and this is the value trends from 2010 to current. You'll again see that there is a large increase for the personal property due to the solar. On page 7 is a value trends in terms of tax dollars. These numbers here are based on the actual 2024 millages that were levied and the maximum allowable millages that would be allowed for this year. This report again includes the values for parcels that are, excludes the values for the parcels that receive any type of exemption from millages, whether it's a veterans exemption or a poverty exemption. On page 8 shows the percent of each class broke down throughout the county. And then pages 9 through 19 will show a breakdown on the assessed and the taxable values by the townships, which includes the percentage of decrease / increase as well. Pages 20 through 65 is a summary of recommended equalized values and trends for each township. Also in the packet, there was the L4024 for the personal and real property totals. This will need to be signed by the chairman and the clerk and submitted to the state. Any other questions?
It seems like, and maybe it's the same format as you always do, but this seems very comprehensive or laid out really well.
More simplified.
It's a lot more simplified than it used to be.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone have any questions for these two ladies? The resolution number is 2025-202.
Perfect. And then 24 is in the packet. It's not, we don't have a print.
It's
We-
in here.
Are we approving the L
We've got it
4024
Need to
tonight?
take action on both.
on both. We have to adopt the resolution and 4024.
What page is that?
It's not, it's page.
The resolution is on page 1, and then the 4024 was on your, in
Yeah,
your packet.
that's the page he's wondering about.
That
In
has
fact,
several different pages. That's what, 6 pages? Right there, sorry.
Oh, page 13 for anybody looking for it in the packet.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, you're fine. Mr. Chairman,
Vice Chairman Peterson.
I'm gonna go in two parts here. First, I make a motion to approve and allow for the appropriate signatures, resolution 2025-02, the resolution to adopt the 2025 county equalization report as submitted with the accompanying statements.
Been moved and supported. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And thusly, I would like to make a motion to approve the L4024 and allow for the appropriate signatures as it is presented.
Support. Been moved and supported to adopt the L4024 as presented and obtain the appropriate signatures. Discussion? Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good job. Up next, we have the prosecuting attorney, Thomas Ginster, with us to discuss a renewal of a contract that he has in place. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. So I'm here to ask the board to renew Special Assistant Prosecutor Betsy Hartley's contract, which expires on 30 May, and it has a 30-day notice provision. So this is timely. Betsy, of course, as you know, she came to us from Macomb County, where she spent 20 years as an assistant prosecutor. She's a former division chief. She was a principal trial attorney for circuit court there, and received an award for her work with sexually exploited children. She has an undergraduate degree in nursing. I would say her performance has been outstanding. And if you don't have to take my word for it, talk to any of the judges or those in law enforcement. If there was a superlative for outstanding, I would use that. So I think this is a win-win situation for the county. I actually sincerely appreciate the work of the commission with the wage study and making the salaries now for assistant prosecutors slightly above the neighboring counties. And that's very important for recruiting. It's still uncompetitive, no fault of your own, it's still uncompetitive with the defense bar and with private sector, but at least it's competitive with assistant prosecuting attorney salaries in our 6 neighboring counties. So if it were up to me, I think I'm going to defer to Brenda on this, but I think as of 20 April, it looks like I was using, a lot of this was because of the vacancies. 50% of my budget year to date for salaries, and we're way below on fringe benefits, including health insurance. I think I used 22% of that allotment because I'm not accepting health because I get state retirement Blue Cross. My sister doesn't accept health, and certainly Betsy as a contract employee doesn't accept health, so that's factored in. So I wanted to keep, if it was up to me, the defense attorneys she's sitting across from the table are making $140 an hour. But I wanted to keep this low because I wanted to respect the board, make it roughly congruent to what framework you came up to if she were on a payroll. Obviously, she's not doing this for money. And she spent the 2 months that she submitted a full bill for the 100 hours, February and March. I can tell you that during those months, she well exceeded the 100-hour cap. She was working at home sometimes till 9 at night issuing warrants. And so her most critical role right now is that of mentoring and training our 2 younger assistants. Betsy and I are the only ones in the office that have any felony trial experience. And I'm in the process right now to talking to different people, recruiting a chief assistant prosecutor for September when my sister is planning on leaving. And the salary range, and again, it's no fault of your own, it's just what it is. I'm not going to find, it's very, very, very unlikely I'm going to find anyone with felony trial experience at the salary offered. So that means I'm going to bring someone in with good academic credentials at the beginning of their career, and then I'm going to have to have them assume that role. So it's very, very important that we have Betsy there along with I to mentor and train that person. That's why I'm asking not for a 6-month renewal, but for a year renewal, because it creates stability in the office and it helps convince whoever I'm recruiting that that stability will be there. And so I'll be open to any questions you might have.
Okay. Anyone have any questions for Prosecutor Genster?
I have questions, but I'm not sure how to word them without his assistant prosecutor coming in next time and yelling at us.
You've done it before.
Okay. Mr. Ginster, I don't doubt that Betsy is vital to your office. I know I asked you this before. But when is, I don't know, it's hard to gingerly ask this. When is the hiring going to stop? When is all this when are you going to have, I know you just hired a new prosecuting attorney. Full circle moment. I was in his mother's 3rd grade class at Walnut Hills. Go Wranglers. Well, they used to be the Wranglers.
And not anymore. Everybody's junior jackets now.
Darn PC. But anyways, so if this is a position we want to fill, if Miss Hartley's in that position, we're not really filling that long term. It's just another year Band-Aid. And we won't be able to fill that position with her in it, correct?
Yeah, that's a very good observation. My focus right now will be my priority will to get a chief assistant prosecutor and make sure that they get their sea legs. And they're, again, it's very unlikely I'm going to find anybody with felony trial experience. So the year will allow me to bridge the gap. If I was doing it the other way, if I was looking for to fill her slot first, I can understand how your question would be more relevant. But if I'm focusing on chief assistant first, the salary offered, I have to have Betsy there as a backup. And a year goes by quickly. And after that, I'm hoping once I get a chief assistant ensconced, it's going to want to be here. Again, retention is as important as recruitment. Then I think we can talk about phasing her out in favor of another felony trial prosecutor that's on the payroll.
So if I remember right, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, when you first got elected and got in the position, you said that you didn't see yourself filling that last prosecuting attorney's position, correct?
At that time, I thought maybe I was mistaken, but at that time I thought there was 5 authorized positions as assistants overall. And I guess there's only 4, correct? Am I correct, Brenda? Yeah.
So you recant what you said then, I guess.
Yes, I must have been mistaken. I think we can run the office with 4 assistants.
Okay. So, and you have 4 now plus Miss Hartley, or 4 including Miss Hartley?
4 including Miss Hartley.
Okay. I guess that's all I have. I would be much more comfortable if we had somebody that we knew was going to be in there. And I mean, health insurance be darned. I'd just like to have somebody in there that's in there for the long haul. And
no, I hear you.
I get that you're having a problem and hiring people, and obviously indigent defense. I know the whole song and dance. It's just I would love to just kind of, no offense to you, I'd love for this to stop being an ask and you guys just kind of work and we see at budget time. And
yes,
but I'm sure you'd like the same thing.
Again, it's an extremely tough competitive environment.
I'm sure of it.
And when I go to the prosecutors seminar, the one I went to, there's a lot of tension between county prosecutors, neighboring counties, because they don't want their assistants to be in the transfer portal, if you use the sports analogy.
Right.
So they're even pirating prosecutors from each other. So I want to Chris Becker is jealous of the people he has working for him. He should put a lot of time and training in young assistants. So I'm trying to find people that want to be here, that are from here if possible, or that want to build a life here and not come in, fly some combat missions, be here for 2 years, and then say, thank you for the experience. I'm going to bigger and better
Right.
offices. So
That's all I have.
All right. Anyone else?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Alexander.
it seems like a win-win with her resume, so I'd make a motion to approve the 1-year renewal of the appointment of the Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Betsy Hartley on a part-time contractual basis for $75 per hour, not to exceed 100 hours per month without benefits.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Discussion. How bad, or bad isn't the right word, but how far from cost effective is this? I mean, it seemed like a odd, kind of a stretch, but in hindsight, with her experience and her limited hours in a month and no health insurance, a little bit of a paradigm shift, but is that really kind of an all right model?
Well, when you consider that we just bumped the other attorneys that are the 1 and 2s to 83,000 and 85,000 for a salary, then if you put benefits on top of that, depending if they're single or take family, that's anywhere from 10,000 to 20,000 additional dollars.
Right.
So potentially it's beneficial, but we're getting 60 hours less a month out of her too than we are those folks. So
She's the top of the top
Yeah.
for experience and knowing what she's doing. So using her in a,
you can appreciate, Mr. Chairman, I'm sure you can appreciate that she's just extremely proficient. Sometimes it takes me in capital cases or especially sexual assault cases 3 or 4 hours to decide the weighty decision whether to make accusations, felony accusations against someone. Sometimes there's a child dispute or domestic situation behind these allegations. There's children have been subjected to forensic interviewing protocols, and they're tough decisions. She is, I'm not shy to say that she is just a lot more proficient and experienced in certain areas than I am, and can do things in half the time.
And like I said, we're losing 60 hours. Maybe we're not. Maybe she's still putting in those 60 hours at home.
Yep.
and just
So it's like if I
doesn't
came out to
have
fix your tractor, you don't want me to do that because it would take me.
no, that's what I mean. I don't know how this is, to Commissioner Vice Chairman Peterson's point, it isn't the plan that we have used in the past, and it isn't what we thought we wanted, but I don't know how bad it, and I keep it, bad isn't the right word. I don't know how far off this being a good plan that it
Sure.
really is. I mean, if she was just so mediocre, middle of the road, and you were doing this, but for someone of her caliber,
I think it's miraculous she somehow landed in our county,
Yeah.
and she's a godsend to us.
So the way I understand it is this, like if the Tigers brought in Javi Baez and hoped he won him a World Series,
he's gonna.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go ahead.
I had the exact same wondering as I was listening to Prosecutor Ginster speak, and I'm looking at the motion here. I'm like, this might be a good model. Like we're getting a top level prosecutor at a very reasonable wage. The only drawback that I can see is we're not getting the amount of hours that we probably would like to get in a month, but with her expertise, she's probably doing the same amount of work that maybe a new prosecutor would be doing in 160 hours.
Yeah.
And so I don't really have an issue with this model too much. And I think we're really fortunate to have her. So I'm pretty good with this.
But if they're keeping their head above water, that, with the limited hours or whatever, must be its work.
Right.
He's not here asking for two more people, so I don't know. I think it's.
How are you keeping your,
sorry,
how are things with keeping your head above water?
Yeah, when I would say that when Betsy's not here, we're in a reactive mode, just trying to cover dockets. In weeks when she is here, and she'll be here through the summer, I can get proactive. A lot of things that need to be on the front burner.
Do you feel like you've gotten the office into a routine?
Yes, I think
somewhere?
we're turning the corner. We got our sea legs. And I have my sister on no less than 9. She covers the dockets as well, but she has 9 special projects in county, including an appeal from the Michigan Supreme Court we're working on. One of the drawbacks that we're facing is, and I understand I'm dealing with the cards I've been dealt with, is because we don't have a trained legal staff or a paralegal, and having lawyers have to perform duties that normally a trained paralegal would do or somebody at a much lower salary. Right now, we're responding to an application for leave in the Michigan Supreme Court. And so I'm having an attorney get the transcripts and the certified records of conviction and doing menial research and all the things you need to do that somebody at a much lower pay level could do if they were trained. So what we're dealing with the cards we've been dealt. So.
Okay, any other discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Up next, our 435, well, we're really falling behind. Doug Geetz and the Director of Building Grounds for a roofing bid request.
Not sure if it's good afternoon or good evening yet, so.
Yeah, we're not either.
So we had taken some bids for the public safety building roof replacement. As we had talked at budget time, all our roofs are getting to the point where they need replacement, so we're trying to work on them a year at a time, get done what we can for the money that we've budgeted. This one here was budgeted at $250,000. Our bids came in quite sporadically. I don't know if I have my other sheet or not. Anyway, they were 140 some to 397. So I wasn't real comfortable with the lowest one because he is 40,000 lower. The next 2 guys are fairly close. I felt that was an awful lot to leave on the table, and not knowing the company, not being able to find any information on the Better Business Bureau on this particular contractor. So I chose to not go with the next highest, but the next highest. And the reason being is the difference in the warranty. One has a 20-year warranty, one has a 25-year warranty. If you break it down by year, it's actually cheaper to go with the 25-year warranty guy. They're also the ones that helped me put together all the specs, everything else free of charge to be able to put this project out for bid. So I felt we owed them a little bit of a percentage of break as well. So my proposal is to use Weather Shield at $199,214 to do that roof replacement, which is part of the dispatch offices, the MS offices, and into the back half of the sheriff's office where the road sergeants and patrols are at.
Anyone questions for Doug? Pretty straightforward.
Makes sense.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Alexander.
I guess I had one question with the Strang Roofing. Their quote said 121 in one spot and then 141 in another.
Yeah.
Do you know why that is?
I don't know what, that was an alternate to do it a little different way of,
Oh,
a
gotcha.
different way of fastening, but because it's not metal deck, it's concrete. I was told by 2 other contractors to stay away from that. It works, but as the insulation piles up, if you don't have the right length screw, you feel like you're in it, but you're not, or you're not in it deep enough. So the glue method is the more expensive way, but based on the type of structure we have, that's the best way.
So are they, the 141 is to do it the other way?
Correct.
I guess you said you did some research on them. You couldn't find much?
I couldn't. Better Business Bureau doesn't show them even listed. I talked to a couple other contractors, hadn't really heard of them. Don't know how new they are to the game.
Because I started to look a little, and I found that they did some work for the city of Saginaw in like a similar situation where they were way low of a bid and they were selected, but I don't know
And
if it's worth reaching out or I don't know because it's
I had the
quite
same
low.
information. I didn't want
Okay.
to bring it up, but I was told that they were terrible on any
Okay.
maintenance work after that. So
Okay.
Well, and from our past experience, a couple of times. We got what we paid for.
Exactly. No, I just had to ask the question.
Yeah,
Brendan,
that's always the best thing to go with.
we have this in our capital improvements budget,
Mhm.
correct?
Yep, we budgeted it last summer.
So we're still, even if we go to the 199, 214, we're still 50,000
1,000
under what we
under,
budgeted.
Yep.
Mr. Chairman,
Vice Chairman Peterson.
I'd make a motion to hire Weather Shield at the bid price not to exceed $199,214 for the replacement of 3 sections of the roof at the public safety building.
Support. It's been moved and supported. Discussion.
Are we calling it the public safety building now? I thought it was a court complex.
No. This is the sheriff's office dispatch area.
Oh, I guess I was looking at the picture wrong.
No, next year we'll do the court.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Okay, now I was looking at Weather Shield's picture and yep, my bad, sorry.
Any other discussion on the 3 sections that this buys? How many more sections on that building?
Well, the sections are based on where they can break the roof. So the north section, the rest of section 3 needs to be done. And then we'd start moving across the jail on that particular building as needed. Right now, the court building is really the next phase that is in line to be replaced because of the fact that it's not ballasted, which means it doesn't have stone on it, which means it takes a lot more sun absorption and shrinks and cracks more. So
I guess what I was getting at is just like a percentage of completion. What will this get us on completion of bad roofs? Are we 10% there if we accomplish this, or are we more?
Well, we did part of the courts a couple of years ago, so we're probably at 20% maybe.
Okay.
I would say so.
25
I know
maybe.
we had an expense for this between the 2 buildings for 5 years.
We were just over
So
$1 million, weren't
we
we?
did that, and now this, that would probably be close.
Okay, thanks. Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
All right, Joe.
Up next, we have Joe Verlin with us from Gaybridge and Company to present the 2024 County Audit Report.
16 minutes late isn't
Sorry to keep you waiting, Joe.
That's all right.
Started out in the hole and haven't gained it yet.
I'll see if I can pick up the pace. Good afternoon. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. And as has been the case for the past several years, our process went very smoothly. We requested a set of financial statements and all the supporting documents in order to be able to confirm and verify the numbers that were provided to us. And what matters more than anything else is the opinion that you can find on the second paragraph of page 1. So because we were able to verify everything, we wrote, in our opinion, the financial statements present fairly the financial position of the county as of September 30, 2024. This is referred to as a clean opinion, or technically an unmodified opinion on your financial statements, but this is the gold standard, the highest level of an opinion that you can receive on your financial statements. Essentially, it means your controls are suitably designed and effectively operating, allowing you to receive and timely and accurate financial statements. We've had larger organizations that provide us financials and they can't stand behind the numbers, and they get either qualified or adverse opinions. It should always be the county's goal to have a clean opinion on their financial statements, but certainly does mean something to achieve it, and kudos for the staff to get to that point. Hopefully it's not upsetting. I'm not going to cover every page of the audit. I'm just going to cover the highlights.
I am upset.
Yeah. So if you go to page 6, that gets us into the Cliff Note version, essentially, of the entire audit. This is the management discussion and analysis section of the report. Here we get financial highlights, 2-year comparative information, just to get an idea of the trend of your financial statements, and then narrative explaining reasons behind the significant changes in your finances for the past couple of years. So financial highlights, that first bullet point shows theoretically, if we sold the county sold all of its assets and paid all of its liabilities, the difference, or in the corporate world we would call it equity, in the governmental world we call it net position, is $53,118,699. A theoretical number. We do like to see whether or not that number is improving or decreasing. It's nice to know if the government is operating at a sustainable level, and you can see that there was an increase of $3.6 million. In other words, the revenues that the county received exceeded your expenses by $3.6 million. This is on the long-term basis of accounting or the accrual basis of accounting. So it means that you're operating in a sustainable level. Second bullet point down. Now we're looking at the fund balances of the county. This is a slightly different measurement focus. Your fund balances are your immediate resources compared to your immediate obligations, and the difference is referred to as fund balance. I would think of this as being checkbook accounting. And at the end of the year, total fund balances came in at $29,406,305 across all the governmental funds of the county. So we're excluding business type, which are your delinquent tax, revolving, and ambulance. All the other funds are considered governmental, $29.4 million, an increase of just under $1.9 million. So cash into your funds exceeded the cash out by roughly $1.9 million. So whether we look at the long-term basis, which had an increase in net position of $3.6 million, or the short term, you had an increase of $1.9 million. Either way, you're having an increase, improved financial condition. Third bullet point, now we're looking just at your general fund, and total fund balance of your general fund came in at $22,678,976, and that was an increase of $652,602. So in other words, the cash into your general fund exceeded the cash out by roughly $653,000 during the year. Always nice to see the general fund improving, certainly the most important fund of any local unit of government. And if we take the total unassigned fund balance of $17.4 million, so of the $22.7 million, some of that's earmarked and restrained for specific purposes. The unassigned fund balance is $17.4 million. If we divide that by your annual general fund expenditures and transfers out, you're about 108% funded. So in other words, you've got enough reserves to cover about 1 year's worth of operating activities within your general fund. Unassigned fund balance is important because that's how much the county has to cover day-to-day cost of running the county. You can use that for supplies, just general expenditures, one-time purchases, capital outlays, things of that nature. So anyway, you look at the finances of the county, they're trending up. Very healthy financial position as of September 30, 2024. If you go to page 9, we get a look at the comparative assets and liabilities of the county for the past 2 years. Really just 3 rows that I wanted to point out here. First, the very top row, if you go to the very last 2 columns, you can see that your total current and other assets came in at $51.56 million. My eyes are, my wife told me when I turned 45 I was going to need glasses, and she was pretty much spot on. It's getting harder and harder to see these numbers. $51.6 million as of September 30, 2023, compared to $54.8 million of current and other assets at September 30, 2024. So you can see that your liquidity, your cash, your current assets are improving, which is always a good sign. Halfway down the page, your long-term liabilities, we'd like to see the long-term liabilities decreasing. And you can see they did do just that, from $12 million at September 30, 2023, about a $2 million decrease to $10.1 million. And then your unrestricted net position across all funds of the county came in the very last column, 2 rows up from the bottom, $32.1 million. That number improved $2.1 million up to $34.3 million as of September 30, 2024. So again, just healthy to see, or helpful to see comparative financials to get a better understanding of how your numbers look over time. If we turn to the very next page, we get a look at the revenues and expenses for the past 2 years of the county. A lot of consistency with a couple of notable changes. The second row down, the very last 2 columns, you can see the operating grants for the county decreased from $7.6 million to $4.55 million. The biggest reason for that being your ARPA funding. Those ARPA funds were used primarily in fiscal 23, less funding available, and your ARPA funds expired or were used and didn't generate revenues in fiscal 24. Same with the capital grants. ARPA funding was, some of it was classified as capital, $3.1 million in fiscal 23, down to about $540,000 in fiscal 24. And then 3 rows up from the bottom, you can see the change in net position or the net income. The very last column shows that the county had about $12.1 million increase in net position in fiscal 23 compared to an increase of 3.6 million in fiscal 24. Doesn't look good. It's certainly not trending favorably, but the biggest reason for that being are the one-time ARPA revenues that the county was able to recognize in fiscal 23, and they simply stopped in fiscal 24. Still, your revenue exceeded your expenses by 3.6 million, very healthy during fiscal 24. If you go to page 19, we get a look at the fund financial statements of the county. So I already mentioned the general fund being the very first column. You can see 4 rows up from the bottom, 5 rows up from the bottom. Change in fund balance, positive $652,602. Your opioid settlement fund had an increase in fund balance of $563,094, which is restricted. Over the course of the next 13, 14 years, the county will continue to receive some of those opioid settlement funds until they all expire. But again, $563,000 increase in fund balance in that fund during the course of fiscal 24. The very next column over, the other governmental funds, all the other governmental funds of the county are considered non-major funds. They get aggregated into one column, but when we look at them in aggregate, they still had a $684,000 increase in total fund balance. And then the very last column, 5 rows up at the bottom, $1.9 million increase in fund balance across all funds of the county. So your general fund did well, as did the other governmental funds of the county. All the funds are showing increases in the aggregate during the course of fiscal 24. Page 48. I don't remember who mentioned this. It might have been Brenda earlier, but you can see the very top row. It's always nice to know how your long-term debt is doing over time. And note 6, top row, general obligation bonds, beginning of the year, $1.76 million, $870,000 decrease during the course of fiscal 24, leaving a balance of $890,000, which has already been paid. So those bonds are now paid in full. Didn't want to quickly point that out. Just a few more pages. If you go all the way to page 68, that gets us into the comparative net pension liability schedules for the county. We now have 10 years of comparative data. And these numbers too are not easy to read. Roughly 1/3 of the way down, you can see in the very first column, 2023, it looks like a typo, but these are based on the MERS retirement plan, pension retirement plans year end, which is December 31st, 2023. And the 2023 results fit into the county's fiscal 24 audit. So the total pension liability, in order to cover the long-term pension liability for active employees as well as current retirees, about $35.5 million is going to be paid to meet that liability. The total assets to cover that liability, 2/3 of the way or so down the page, the plan fiduciary net position came in at $26.4 million. And that leaves a net pension liability of roughly $9.1 million. If we take your total assets of $26.4 million and we divide it by your total liability of $35.5 million, the county's 74.32% funded, at least in accordance. I mean, what you see in the valuation is probably slightly different, but in accordance with the Governmental Accounting Standards Board pronouncements, you are considered 74% funded, which is pretty much average when we look at our local units of government in the state of Michigan. So right in line with where most local units are. We've got some local units that are in the 40% in terms of total funding. We've got others that are a little bit closer to 100%. But 74 is a good spot to be. And if you go one column to the right, fiscal or calendar year 2022, the county was at 71%, in a net pension liability of $9.9 million. So you're trending in the right direction. Who knows what? Well, fiscal 24 is going to yield favorable results. We don't know what 25 is going to look like yet. That remains to be seen, but we should see reasonable improvement again on when we look at next year's audit report, because MERS is 1 year behind. And in calendar year 2024, it had reasonable returns during the course of the year. Similarly, if you go to page 70, we get a look at a very similar schedule to, this shows your retiree healthcare liability, the OPEB plan. And slightly different timing here. The actuarial valuation is actually performed on June 30. So as of June 30, 2024, about 1/3 of the way down the page, the total OPEB or retiree healthcare liability came in just over $1 million. In order to cover that liability, the county, 2/3 of the way or so down the page, has funded $443,000 of it, leaving a net OPEB liability of $620,000 and a planned fiduciary net position of 42% or 41.7%, up from 2 years earlier, 0%. So you guys are quickly putting a dent in that retiree healthcare liability, and certainly doing much better than average with regard to how most of our local units are doing in terms of funding that retiree healthcare. So healthy progress being made on the retiree healthcare side of things. The last thing that I wanted to point out, page 111, this is the schedule of findings and question costs. Because the county received and expended more than $750,000 of federal funds, it was actually just under $2 million that the county received. We perform, in addition to a standard financial statement audit, a federal single audit as well. And what that means is we take a look at all of your federal funds. We perform a risk assessment. We select one program that we think is major, one or two programs, and we look at all the federal compliance requirements. We've got a half a dozen different compliance requirements and a 30-page checklist of all the things that we need to look at in order to make sure the county is receiving and expending your federal funds in accordance with the grant award agreement or the grant agreement. So we didn't have any findings. If you look halfway down the page, the federal award section, material weaknesses identified, I'm happy to report that there weren't any. So in other words, if we saw controls that weren't effectively designed or suitably operating over either your financial statements or compliance over your federal awards, we would be required to put those in writing and bring those to the attention of the board. There were no such findings. Similarly, there were no significant deficiencies. And then if you look, there's a section there that says any audit findings disclosed that are required to be recorded in accordance with 2 CFR 205, the uniform guidance. In other words, there were no compliance findings either. So you're fully compliant, suitable controls, if everything's effectively operating. There's actually 2 opinions that we provide on your financial statements. The second opinion being a clean opinion on the auditor's report issued on compliance over your major program was clean. So clean opinion on your financial statements, healthy financial position, and a clean opinion on your federal awards. So all around, in addition to that, the funding of your pension liability is in good shape. Those are the highlights that I've got, but I'm certainly happy to take any further questions the commission might have.
Okay. Anyone have any questions for Joe?
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Joe, not that I'm trying to get rid of you, but how long have you been doing our financials now?
I believe 2016 was the initial year that we did the audit.
And is the same, I'm sure there's turnover just like everything else, but are the same people working on them year after year?
We do make sure that we rotate and get a fresh set of eyes looking at the numbers. So at a minimum, every 5 years, we have a new audit team that gets rolled out. You guys are stuck with me. I typically do the audit presentation, but I'm just simply a resource to the audit team, whereas the audit team goes and they're doing all the heavy lifting. I present it, but when we initially started, we had an entirely different audit team that was showing up and doing the work.
Okay, I'm just solely trying to make sure that we're avoiding a situation that we had previous to this, and always changing the people on the numbers so we are getting a fair and accurate.
Sure.
Not accusing you of anything.
Yeah, that is something that we take very important. We do make sure that we track it and we rotate accordingly.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. Last year, we were like 112% funded, I believe, and now we're 107. How much did we partner this year with other agencies? It was about $10 million or something, like with the county and the road commission and stuff.
That happened after this fiscal year was done. We didn't do that till November.
Okay.
So yes, we gave $2 million to the road commission.
So we won't see that until next year.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So that fund balance percentage has been pared down quite a bit.
Right.
We've done that already.
That's what I was
So.
shooting at. Okay,
These numbers are looking backwards, so we're looking at September 30, 2024. They aren't reflective of, current year policy.
I've got one quick question.
Go
Or
ahead.
maybe he won't know the answer. On that OPEB funding at 41.66, I know we were mandated to be at least 40%.
Mhm.
And I've said when I started funding that, I'm gonna hit the mandate and that's it. Is that advised or not? Should I go a little higher?
You are compliant. The county is compliant. You can work with your actuary, and your actuary will tell you this is the minimum amount that needs to be funded in order to meet the uniform assumptions that Treasury publishes on an annual basis. So there is a certain threshold, and I don't recall. It has to do with when the employees were hired. There's a certain dividing date. A normal cost does need to be contributed on an annual basis to maintain compliance, but it's a small fraction potentially of, you don't need to get to 100% funded,
Right.
but it is very possible that there is a minimum level that needs to be contributed on an annual basis. And your actuary is going to know much more precisely than I do.
Okay. I'll reach out.
That answer your question.
Mhm.
Joe, there was something the last few years where it was skewing the numbers based on either a governmental standard or a pension makeup thing. Have we gotten through every year? Are we done with that now?
Yes. If you go to page 68, in 2017, there was a change in assumption. So for the fourth from last row, 2017, there was a decrease in the county's pension liability of $12,590,050. And that was because you guys, or the county, took the funds out of your standalone pension plan and you moved it into the MERS pension plan. And their assumptions were a little bit more favorable than the county's original assumptions. So it decreased your total pension liability by $13 million approximately, or $12.5 million approximately. And that number was amortized over the course of either 4 or 5 years. I don't remember exactly, but we're past that.
Okay.
Regardless.
Good. Where do you think, I know telling us is kind of our decision to make, but over the years, and you haven't done this all the years we've had it, but as you indicated a minute ago, since 16, the position that the county's in, from my perspective, feels as healthy as it's ever been in my time here. Would you agree with that or comment
I
on
would
that
agree.
at all?
When we initially began auditing the county, you guys pretty much were at rock bottom in terms of the unassigned fund balance. And every year you keep working that number up. It can go quickly though.
Yeah.
Right. In the opposite direction.
Sure.
And the county was feeling comfortable 15 years ago and ended up, going to rock bottom in a fairly short period of time. So it goes both ways. I will say that you guys do a very good job of monitoring your finances and making sure there's a little bit left over on an annual basis. And for that reason, I'm not really allowed to provide any type of opinion on financial condition, but I will say that you guys are in very healthy shape as of September 30, 2024.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
Do we need a motion to place on file?
I think we need a motion to accept the audit report or just accept it.
I would move to accept the auditor's report as presented.
Support. It's been moved and supported to accept the 2024 audit report as presented. Discussion. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Joe.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Joe.
See you next year.
Yes.
Up
Hopefully.
next is tonight's correspondence, Vice Chairman Peterson, please.
Wow. Already?
Yeah.
That was quick. This is going to be quick.
Yes, it is.
Board correspondence for Monday, April 28th. For your consideration is 3 warrant reports, First warrant report is 0417-205 in the amount of $376,996.40. Second up is warrant report number 0424-2025 in the amount of $112,195.32. And lastly, warrant report 0428-2025 in the amount of $393,532.90 for a grand total of $882,724.62. If there is any questions, comments, or concerns, bring them up now. If not, I would move to accept and allow for the appropriate signatures.
It's been moved and supported to accept the 3 warrant reports. In my pen died in the middle, $882,000.
$724.62.
$724.62. Discussion. If there's no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Next is the consent agenda, items 4 through 17. If anybody has any questions on those, good luck. If not, I move to place items 4 through 17 on the consent of the consent agenda on file.
It's been moved and supported, place items 4 through 17 of the consent agenda on file. Discussion. Hearing no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Lastly is item 18. It is for your information only. If no one has anything on that, that will be your board correspondence for Monday, April 28th.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Peterson.
Thank you.
Next is committee reports. We don't have any. New business, item 1, clerk correspondence. Item 2, controller correspondence.
A couple things.
Okay.
I just wanted to pass along. I did receive a thank you email from the Crystal Historical Society for the CAC money for that walk-up sign that they want to purchase. So just passing that along. That came from David White of Crystal. Thanking you for that. And then the second thing I received today, our Eagle grant document for the new MMP work program and all the hoops we got to jump through there for the state. They would like this back as quickly as possible. It just requires my signature. It's for $93,307. It's a 1-year grant. They're giving us a little bit extra time just because everything's kind of behind the 8 ball. But we are seeking reimbursement through that program for our compactor lease payments and our household hazardous waste and electronic recycling to reimburse those funds. Because we're already doing everything that the mandates or the updates mandated. So, but they would allow us to submit those types of existing expenses. So that's what we put in for, is just to keep our program going for that 3-year cycle where everybody else is building their program. So
Is that new, or have we gotten that money before from?
this is
Eagle?
new. It's part of the new mandates that they,
Restructuring of the whole
going
thing.
from a solid waste program to a materials management program. We'll get it for 3 years. This is the first year. So I'll be back next year probably with another one.
And
So-
that's a given or a competitive, we've got to apply for it. If we accept
We had
it,
to
it's-
apply, but this
this
is,
is already awarded. We just have to
Yeah.
accept it.
yeah, and then it's a reimbursement thing. So I will have to send in expenses towards it.
Will that electronics thing that we've got tabled fall under that then?
It could, I guess, if we wanted to do that. We were going to pay for it. We made the motion to pay for it out of the public improvements fund.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? No action to take?
Well, I would like a
Oh, yeah,
motion made
motion
to
to
allow me to
accept that.
sign it and send it back.
Anyone so inclined?
$93,307. And that's what the amount will be each year of the 3 years.
So, this is just a grant from Eagle in that
Yep.
amount.
Yep.
Alright.
For year one of our MMP plan.
All right, I'll move to accept the grant and allow signatures for the Eagle Materials Management Planning Program grant in the amount of $93,307.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Discussion. If there's no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Number 3 is chair board correspondence. I don't have anything. Does anyone else? Did you want to talk about your constituent concern?
Yeah, I had a constituent reach out to me regarding the event. Well, it was regarding the event that happened or is happening down at William MacArthur Park. In the course of that conversation, she mentioned that since they put the disc golf course up down there, she's had a lot of people end up in their yard, and she would want to know if we would consider perhaps putting up a fence down there.
Do you know which person is it the property to the south of the?
Property to the south,
the
yep,
park?
yep.
Okay.
So I think that's something that we should look, get a bid on or consider, check into it a little bit more anyway, see if that's something that would.
Are they retrieving frisbees? Or are they lost, or-
I think there's some of that and that was definitely something, but she says a lot more people coming from the park onto their property. I didn't dig too deep into that, but
Maybe even
there's a lot more people back there now because the
Can't
disc
picture
golf's
the
back there.
residence. Does that one sit back?
It sits back away from the road. Yep,
Mhm.
yep. A lot of trees and stuff in front of it. I don't even know if you can really see it from the road, honestly.
Yeah. I know.
Would she want
Wintertime, you
to
can.
fence the whole length of our property or just up front where the park is at?
I think just probably where the park is at, anywhere where the frisbee golf is my understanding.
That's something maybe
Yeah,
we
can
could
look
ask
into
Doug about or see. And I don't know, are you picturing like a solid privacy kind of fence or just a fence that
Chain
keeps
link?
people from going through it?
I hadn't really given it that much thought. In my mind, it was a chain link fence, but
Okay.
is it something where we can call Trump and get the wall? Yeah, right.
60
footer.
Yeah.
That's something I could reach out to the constituent and see if, what they had in mind as well.
Yeah.
That's what Matt talked about before the meeting with me a little bit. And I said, well, at minimum, maybe some better signage that
Yeah, that's private property. Yeah.
keeps the honest people.
Yeah.
But, okay.
I kind of like to see it. I kind of like to see what the situation is.
Mhm.
It might be tough because there's a fence row running right down that south end. I mean, we'd have to take out some trees and stuff to put an actual
That's
fence.
true.
I mean, we could, whatever. Well,
A bunch of hypotheticals.
I really want to drive through there myself and see exactly where the problem is. I just know that she mentioned the disc, since they put the disc golf in,
Mhm.
it's become more of an issue. And I think it's
Bunch of
more
ruffians,
activity
huh?
over there. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those disc golfers are heathens.
Tough crowd. Tough
Yeah.
It
crowd.
is a rough township.
That is. Only the roughest folk come from that township. Well, let me tell you.
All right. Anyone else? Chair board correspondence. If not, old business. Item 1 is the electronics recycling event.
Mhm.
Brenda.
So I'll have a memo in there, and this is the information that Steve was able to acquire.
All the way
Valley
on
City.
154.
So, and the company, Valley City, actually suggested that he just hold one event in Greenville in the fall because we're doing an event here in May.
With Valley City as well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but I told him I'd leave that up to you guys.
I think that makes a lot more sense.
I do too.
I don't think we need to hold two of them here.
Mhm,
This is considerably cheaper.
Yeah.
mhm.
Half-ish or not quite?
Oh, think it was quite halfish from the last one, but you mean the 3,200 or 3,500, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say it was 6,000 for one.
So close.
Could be wrong.
Yeah. So Steve's, the one option idea then is option one, one location option, I should say.
Yep,
Does this include the electronics recycling and all that?
it's just electronics.
It's just
yes,
electronics,
in the
okay.
fall.
Oh, yeah, electronic. Yeah. Okay.
But
And they just charge by the pound or something a lot less complicated, right? It's just bring everything and.
Yeah, I was gonna see if I could find that other one from the last meeting.
is it all those things that Steve's previous bid had extra costs for? I don't know what it all was, but like
Yeah.
That's what I'm
flat
saying is
screen.
I thought
Printers.
Brenda
Yeah.
was saying they just charge by the pound at this Valley City and,
Electronics, bring it and we take
right.
it.
And the last one was if it has more than 5 pixels, it's going to cost 29 cents a pound.
Right.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
What's the, I mean, by the time you figured in the extra cost for some of those other things, this is definitely half of what that other
Right.
option
Yeah,
was.
his last visit said one location was $3,000 for free stuff and no additional items, and another 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 depending
How
on
much?
the other things that cost. Which
And this is just a
TV.
one-time shot, right?
Yeah.
That was a good catch on your part to suggest this company then.
Very much so. Is everybody okay with option one then?
I like it.
Yep.
Nate was just saying he wanted to make a motion.
You made one.
Oh, dang. Matt was just saying he wanted to make a motion.
Steve actually brought that up to you, that he'd be fine with just the one and that
Mhm.
they had even, okay.
Yeah, he had an email to me that he would be fine. He was actually leaning towards this first option after speaking with the folks at Valley City.
What was the other group?
Comp renew.
Comp Renew, which we used to use them.
Yeah.
I know we used
Till they got
to.
it too
Do they-
expensive.
Do these, one of the things that he brought up when he was talking about that was that they wipe hard drives and destroy them.
That's right.
Does this do the same thing?
What's that?
Do they provide the same security that?
They must, because he didn't bring that up in his email to me. And I think that would have been a big issue for him.
Yeah,
And he
yeah.
wouldn't have wanted to go this way.
So he's recommending this, okay.
Well, I'll move to allow for an electronic recycling event in May,
In
Uh,
September.
in September.
Yeah.
That will be conducted by Valley City Recycling. Not to exceed the,
Well, he wants us to round it to at least to that.
okay, in the amount not to exceed $4,000,
Either one of those numbers.
not to exceed 4,000.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to hold one recycling event in Greenville, September 13th, 2025, Valley City. Electronics recycling and not to exceed $4,000. Discussion. If there's no discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Up next is public comments.
Mr. Chairman.
Vice Chairman Peterson.
I would personally, but I'm sure the board would echo my thoughts. But I would like to thank Brenda for yet another clean audit, Brenda and staff.
Absolutely.
I think it's a far cry from where we were when I first started, and it's always nice to hear we didn't mess it up too bad. So thank you, Brenda, for yet another clean audit. I'm sure the board
Thank
echoes
you.
that.
I will
Yes.
say this was probably our easiest one. Less stress. Things went quickly, and we didn't really hear a lot from them after they were here the one day.
It
So
started out a little rocky, didn't it? They weren't
little
coming
bit,
on site
yeah,
and whatever,
yeah,
but
they only
then-
come one day now. So
Did you want to stick with this firm?
well,
Make a
I think
change?
I'm gonna go out for RFP this summer just because I think we need to. Their due diligence too. I did tell them. I have told them that. So that's why Joe said that. Hopefully, he'd be back next year. So
But they'll have the right to turn in one and could be selected.
Oh, yeah.
It's not
Oh,
like
yeah.
do or die, we're gonna change, right?
nope. Just doing our due diligence to see what else is out there and what the
Sure.
costs are. So after 9 years, I think we've been with them for this was our 9th audit with them, audit cycle. So
It really does feel like we're in a good place.
That's never good.
Oh, man.
It's a calm before the storm, boy. Here we go.
No, I mean, I think we need to be diligent about
Why you say
paying
it out
attention
loud?
to it. but
No,
we've
I
we've
agree
had
with
some
you.
Good stuff. You know, the ARPA thing was a good shot in the arm,
Yes.
and paying that bond off this past year is gonna be freeing up some money. And I don't know, it's just, it seems like it's easier when you get to that point and you're operating in a positive and earn a little bit of interest instead of behind the 8 ball all the time paying interest and
Mhm.
can't
Trying to
hardly
make
keep
up
up.
ground.
So
I will say with, not to jinx it, but with the state of the economy and who knows revenue sharing, budget time coming, we really need to,
we got it recorded. It's not
pick and
gonna affect
choose.
revenue sharing.
huh?
We got a recording. It's not going to affect revenue sharing.
Yeah.
We're
That's
told
gotta
that.
pass and be
signed into
Can
law.
hold him accountable for that.
But I just think in general, I think we're in a good spot right now. We need to just keep that going and not get out over our skis.
So with that in mind, and hearing the equalization report tonight and now the audit review, we will be back next time with L 4029 for the summer tax operating millage. So we will need to decide what you want to do there with the operating millage for next time. I told Deb to come with a couple options. So
when, next month?
the next meeting,
How long before we'll really know the effect of our work from last L 4029?
I think we already saw it last year, didn't
yeah,
we?
we did. It went into
Yeah.
effect last summer.
Yeah, but as far as
Well, the
whether
effect
we've got
was,
the affordability to do it again or
Right.
less or
Well,
more. Or,
so years prior, we were clipping anywhere from 2 to 3.5 million surplus. This audit was only 680,
636.
600 and some thousand.
So-
So that was the fact right there.
okay.
And I think
And-
that's an appropriate amount.
Most of that is because we're getting so much in interest money right now.
Right.
Interest revenue is high.
And with the bond being paid off, that'll be another, $900,000 shot in the arm. So I don't think we need to go one way or another. We can take a look at the numbers, but I mean, it is what it is.
Mhm.
If we can save our taxpayers money, let's do it. If not, I think we've cut pretty well and been good stewards of the taxpayer money, but we'll see. We can take a look. If Deb brings us a couple of options, we can always see where to go.
Well, I told her to do the same thing we did last year. So
Heck yes.
Okay.
we'll see what she
He did
has.
say, as positive as was, what I were be thinking about during budget time is he said things can go south quickly.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and so I'll keep
Yes.
that in mind.
Well, and I was in a meeting last month with an investment banker for West Michigan Regional Planning, and they did say to expect a decrease in the interest rates for the second half of the year this
Oh, yeah.
year. So yeah, we won't probably be seeing the interest revenue that we had been seeing.
Okay.
Time will tell.
All right.
I move to adjourn.
Support. It's been moved and supported to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Hey.
Meeting adjourned. What was that shot at Javi you took in the middle?
Oh, I had to, man.